Hi, I'm Courtney Lockhart, and my topic is what is visual phonics and how can it help your child's speech development? By the end of this video, you should be able to gain insightful information about the use of visual phonics as a strategy for the speech development of deaf and hard of hearing students. The technique of visual phonics was founded by a woman with 3 hard of hearing children. She wanted to give them access to a visual and written form of communication. She believed that a multisensory method to speech development could help her children and others learn the phonetic sounds that they were unable to hear due to their hearing loss. But she knew she needed help. With the help of Millie Snow, an administrator and advocate for inclusive education, they founded the International Communication Learning Institute in 1982. The institute helped the women to train educators and professionals in the newfound approach to speech instruction, known as visual phonics. This network of professionals formulated the innovative technique of visual phonics that is currently studied today. Before I address the benefits and potential improvements to this approach, it is important to ask, what is visual phonics? It is an instructional program to provide print awareness, alphabet knowledge, and sound letter correspondence for children with hearing loss who experience difficulty developing a foundation of phonemic awareness skills. This program combines a visual and written language with hand shapes and written symbols to develop a sign-based visual representation of speech. There are 46 visual hand cues, with the 46th hand cue being the silent E, for example in the word tape or made. Each hand cue has a corresponding written symbol and visual representation. The appeal of this approach is notable due to the increased academic achievement levels of deaf students. The growth in this approach is evident in the chart that displays the array of professionals who use this phonetic-based system of language. These professionals range from deaf educators to speech-language pathologists and interpreters to even parents. As we know, there are 26 letters in the English language and 45 phonemes or distinct units of sound that help to differentiate between various sounds in a given word. For example, the visual hand cue C can be expressed as a hard C in cookie, K in kite, and a soft C in cereal. The hand cue for the hard C begins at the side of the mouth in a C shape, while the C in cereal is expressed by the soft C hand cue, which is expressed through the touch of the index finger to the mouth. Memorizing 46 visual hand cues can be a complex task, but the most effective way to learn the cues is through practice and repetition. Similar to our understanding of language acquisition and learning, visual phonics is most effectively learned through repeated exposure of the cues to enhance speech development. Due to the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001 and the movement to mainstream practices, inclusive education prospers as proper services were provided in the classroom. This 2001 bill helped to highlight that all students have the ability to become proficient readers, adequate speakers, and successful learners in the classroom. Unfortunately, due to a gap in the understanding of English phonics, deaf and hard of hearing students were often recommended to repeat the previous grade level. Shane Jimerson, an active researcher on grade retention, suggested that professionals develop an explicit form of instruction that was formulated through a research-based plan, visual phonics. Visual phonics became a critical recommendation to investigate its potential impact on reading, articulation, and spelling levels of deaf and hard of hearing students using this approach to instruction. It is believed that visual phonics can be used with all students in general education instruction, but the what, how often, and how changes depending on curriculum and students' learning needs. It is proven through various studies that visual phonics impacts the academic achievements of deaf and hard of hearing students through phonological awareness, literacy levels, and speech production. This method is most effective when each child's individual needs are met. In order to understand the effectiveness of visual phonics, it is important to look at the impact of this technique in the classroom. A study was conducted in 2010, and a 4-year-old deaf preschool student was recruited to determine if the exposure to this visual cued and phonics strategy had any effect on the student's phonological awareness, which is the ability to manipulate sounds and language, aiding the student in learning vocabulary, demonstrating comprehension and reading, and eliciting speech production. The student was able to retain the information, but she could not produce the sounds in a given classroom, so receptively skills were present, but the expressive skills of spoken language were absent. The implementation of visual phonics uses phonemes to be utilized to enhance the understanding of visual cues through sounds with the help of SLPs. The program enhances the use of sight as a strength in this multisensory method to speech development. The study begins with a one-on-one intervention with the presentation of visual phonics. It was an oral-based environment. The exposure to this phonic-based representation of speech and language was proven effective through her post-testament assessment growth. After exposure, the student was able to properly match the sound and written symbol associated with the appropriate visual hand cue in class instruction, which she could previously not do before the intervention. Visual phonics can also be used as a method for SLPs to enhance the speech production and articulation of deaf and hard of hearing students. About 91.6% of SLP cases in schools focus on articulation systems. The impact of visual phonics on articulatory measures was displayed in a 10-week intervention program with 25 kindergarten to first grade students. As articulation emphasizes the importance of the hand cues, much of speech center sessions focus on the manipulation of the mouth using one's hand. The use of visual phonics and Baldi, a computer program that visualizes the place of articulation for a given sound, was demonstrated by SLPs. This proven to be effective as students use the hand-shaped cues to target sound accuracy. Within the intervention, the sounds sh, f, as SH, F, L, and H were the 4 phonemes that were focused on, as these phonemes are in the range of expected sound understanding for this age group. For the sh sound, the SH sound, the researcher extended her middle and index finger horizontally in front of the mouth and then made an S sound in the air away from the mouth. This phoneme was proven to be understood with the use of the hand cue through 6 trials. Visual phonics was shown to be most useful when the visual cue with the exposure to 3 to 4 phonemes at a given time. For a speech lesson focused on articulation production, the impact was evident in the isolation of sound and the various positions of words, including initial, medial, and final position. This visual phonics approach and program can still be advanced and expanded to be used in the classroom. There is currently a training period for those SLPs and other professionals who are interested in gaining experience and knowledge about visual phonics. As it is fairly new, there is always the ability to further this research, and it has the potential to be a strategy for speech instruction and learning. Every child should have the ability to succeed in the classroom, and any new method of learning, visual phonics in this case, should be consistently explored as it can help to enhance the speech development and academic success of a given student. For more information, please visit these resources and sites. Thank you.